just so thrilled and honored and sort of like starstruck. No pun
Well,
intended.
there's no need for that, but it's a definite cautionary, good bit of advice that not to meet your heroes because I've met a couple of them.
I'm sure because you've had such a diverse career, and you've especially the stage. I mean, you're stage royalty. And I was shooting myself, not literally, but I saw something come up on uh my uni's website about, oh, Joseph and the Mason Technicolor Trinco, all the Josephs coming together and tour. And I saw your picture. I'm like, oh my God. And it was like from the previous year. And I was like,
Yeah,
crap.
yeah. I've always had a rule whenever I've worked. If someone's trying to get something off the ground, I'll do it if I'm offered. So if I'm free. So Keith, the guy that was setting it up, and it was his little baby, to get going. We have a mutual friend, Marcus Collins, who was in X Factor in England.
Yeah.
Who came second in X Factor, and he's a mutual friend of ours. And he said, "Oh, Glenn did Joseph." Loosely, I played Joseph twice or three times. I think I was understudy when I played it when Philip Schofield got married. He was the English
Yeah.
television celebrity that
Yeah.
now's not so much of a celebrity, but he was Joseph when I was there, and I took over for him when he got married. So I went in to do that, but I only played it three times. It's not like I was a Joseph, really. So, but I said to Keith, well, he's asked me to do it, and he's trying to get something off the ground, and it's always been my rule. If someone's trying to get something off the ground, whether it's a workshop or anything, whether it's paid or not, if I'm free, I'll do it. So I just said, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. And we had great fun. I haven't done one since. They've toured, I think, 3 or 4 times since then, but I haven't done it again. But it was fun. I'm not against doing it again. It was fun.
You probably were really um you're probably perplexed why Renee and I reached out to you, and we have other hosts, but they're all over the world. We have hosts all over the co-hosts all over the world, but especially you're probably perplexed about why we reached out to talk about your particular version of Jesus Christ Superstar, not necessarily Jesus Christ Superstar
because
as
it's the best one.
Exactly. And I'm not sure if I'm not sure if you're familiar, but your version of Jesus Christ Superstar has a big underground cult following online.
No idea. No, not a clue. Really?
Yes, in terms of like, especially on Reddit and on Tumblr,
Really?
and Deviant Art, people draw your character of Jesus and Jerome's character of Judas, and it's the version of Jesus Christ Superstar that drew people in, and it has a huge following online. If you just look at the comments on YouTube, and I've connected with the other JCS fans online, and that's their quintessential version, because to us it's the most real and the most raw version.
I think
it was a huge inspiration.
That's very nice to hear. I've never really revisited. I mean, I've played it a few times, as you know, but Gail Edwards was the director of the version I did, and initially in the West End, which was a very different production to the one that was the film, and I just absolutely loved it. And I wasn't the original. In fact, I was Simon Zelotes, and I took over from Steve Balsamo. I couldn't audition for it originally because I've got a natural varicose vein in my vocal cords, and I had a bleed in my. It's only happened twice, and I had a bleed in my vocal cords, so I couldn't audition. So all the parts had gone by the time my voice was better enough to sing, and the only thing left was Simon. So I said, "I'll do Simon," and then if you behave well, you'll see about a takeover later. So I was just so grateful to be in the show initially, and then to get when we all auditioned for the film, and I took over when Stevie left, and who's a great guy. Steve Balsamo is such a lovely fella, and was a brilliant Jesus to work with. When he left, I took over, and then the show closed like 6 months later. So didn't really do it for very long, and then all of a sudden the film was happening, and we just auditioned. I didn't ever think for a second I was going to get that role, because I'd heard that, because they'd just done Evita as a big feature film with Madonna and Antonio Banderas, and I'd heard that they'd offered Antonio Banderas Judas, and everyone was like, Antonio Banderas is going to do Judas, and then I heard, no, he says he's not going to do it unless he does Jesus. I mean, I don't know if any of this is true. You know what the theatre profession is like? I'm just sat there in a room going, oh really? Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, really? I had no idea, because I'm not a gossip, so I don't know. I just hear these things. So and then he wasn't doing it because he wanted to play Jesus, and they said he wasn't a Jesus. And so I didn't ever think for a second at the auditions that it was a serious audition. I just thought they'd asked some of the West End types who
Right.
played it to come in and just sing along on the day just to fill the time. Do you know what I mean? It's just to justify renting a theatre, because they rented a theatre and a film. You had 2 cameras and all this stuff. So when we did the audition for the film, and I just honestly, Steve Balsamo was there, Zubin Vala, who was the Judas when Stevie was. Everyone who'd played it, everyone who'd understudied it was there at the audition. So I just thought it was just all, we were just packing peanuts, really, just there to fill the day until some mega star walked in and he was going to do it, and they had to by law audition or something. I don't know. And then all of a sudden I was offered it. I was can't believe I was shocked, totally shocked. Couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it went my way, but it did, and it was a great thing. It was a great job. It's been a great job, but I had no idea that it has an underground cult.
It does. It absolutely. I can share some art with you, and I've collected it over the years. Of people are really devoted to your portrayal of Jesus, Renee's portrayal of Mary, but not so much, but more of your portrayal of Jesus and Jerome's portrayal of Judas. I mean, I guess it's different in the UK because JCS is such a big part of the cultural fabric here. But in the States, it was in the States in the 70s with the Flower Child movement, but it sort of went away. It sort of left the public consciousness. So when they decide to do the genius idea of turning JCS and Cats and Joseph of Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat to films for DVD in America, they were massive hits. And Renee can attest to this. They were massive. It introduced a whole new generation to Cats and Jesus Christ Superstar and Joseph of Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat with Donny Osmond. It was they were huge sellers on VHS and DVD. And so much so that PBS, which, is the educational channel in the States, showed those during Easter. And they became huge to where any production that came after those, people would always say, well, that's not Cats. Oh, well, that's not Jesus Christ Superstar, or that's not Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, because those 3 versions were so massive. I mean, it introduced a whole new generation of Americans, and I'm sure Brits, to those musicals, to where, especially my age, Renee and I's age and younger, that was our introduction to those musicals. So we tie you to Jesus. So it's really hard, even though there are previous versions it's hard for us to resonate and connect with them because you were our first introduction to this musical.
Yeah, that's interesting, that, isn't it? Because I have, like, for example, A Star Is Born, the movie, A Star Is Born, the film. My version of A Star Is Born is Barbara Streisand and Chris Christopherson. It's not, it's not the ones that came later, which is not Star Is Born, that because they were mine. I totally get that. You're part of a generation, aren't you? But Jesus Christ Superstar, I think this bit, because when I was on Broadway, because obviously I'm sure I played it on Broadway for a little while to absolutely awful reviews, because it was the most compromised production that I think of Superstar that there quite possibly ever been. There was lots of infighting amongst the producers and all that sort of stuff, and it wasn't a happy place to be at all. But one thing I did learn there from the amazing American musical theatre community on Broadway, it's a wonderful place to be. It's because it's an American art form. Musicals are an American art form. You designed it, you came up with them, and Britain's kind of jumped on the bandwagon. We had music hall, not musicals, and I think some people in America, critic-wise, are very protective of that. I remember the first day when I arrived in the Broadway cast. I'm telling you stuff because that I've never said before, and I always promised I'd never say anything to this, and I certainly won't name names, but this is the truth of what happened. We had, on the first day I arrived on Broadway, I loved the place though, and it's amazing walking around, the atmosphere and everything, and I walked into the rehearsal the first day, and I've never been like a big shot, you know what I mean? I just walked in the room, sat down, chat to people, and I sat there and they said, "Oh, there's an equity meeting. We have an equity meeting on the first day of every cast, so you have to come into this room." So we went to this room and we all sat down. I was just sat in the back with whoever, and some of the guys in the show said, "I have one question first and foremost. Why is he here?" Pointing at me, and his finger was like here, and I said, "Excuse me, can you just move your finger? Can you just move your finger?" He says, "Why is he here?" And the equity rep said, I don't understand the question. They said, "Well, he's English. You're telling me that we couldn't find somebody in America to sing the role of Jesus?" And the equity rep kindly explained that they had looked, and I'm sure there's millions of people that can sing it on Broadway, but there is a transatlantic agreement where, although I just done the film and that hadn't come out yet, I did it because the film was going to come out whilst the show was on Broadway, right, which is a great advertising thing. And the cast didn't know that yet, I don't think, even though some of them were in the film. They didn't know that was the plan. But the equity representative said to the one or two members of the cast that were very upset that I was there, and said, "There's a transatlantic agreement where Marcus Lovett, who is an American actor, singer, had gone over to play Jesus in Whistle Down the Wind, and there's a reciprocal agreement where we take someone back, and it always does that. It goes, both ways. It's a transatlantic agreement between the two equity unions and stuff, and it works brilliantly. And we have great people coming to England from America, and vice versa. But it was a very unpopular thing. It was very unpopular right from the moment that show started. It had a little bit of a feeling of disquiet about it from day one, unfortunately. But it was fun.
But I will say this has been happening, especially in the West End here. I'm not like a native to England, but I've been here quite a while. And this is happening, and Renee could probably attest to this, and especially in America. There's like a saying now that the West End and Broadway is where creativity goes to die now, because it's all about money, tickets and stuff. So that's why in the USA, musicals like Reefer Madness are now going to LA. And here in the UK, Manchester has become like the big place where musicals are opening that are experimental. Like Boy George's Taboo is having a revival in Manchester. And it's I think theater goers are taking the power of theater back in their hands. And I think, especially with your version of Jesus Christ Superstar, like Renee and I will attest to this, and most people who follow our podcast and our blog agree that the version that you're in is superior to any other version, and there's so many different reasons. It's because A, the orchestrations are so much more better. B, it's not, some musicals, if they don't adapt and grow, they become dated. And as much as the 70s film is great, Vaughan Element, etc., there's still a bit of flower child camp to it. I think everybody's trying to camp it up, and I don't think that's what it was originally intended to be. But 3, and we're not just blowing smoke up your ass, we were discussing this before, the cast in your version is the quintessential cast to people, because you all bring such humanity and such fear and such darkness to it. I think you can feel if these people really are Jesus and Judas and Mary.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think Gail Edwards has had an awful lot. Gail Edwards was, it is, or was in that production. When she was putting the production together, she had a very clear image of what she wanted, and she wanted to cast people who didn't want to look cool, but wanted to do the journey emotionally, right. And I one thing I almost never do is talk about acting. Do you know what I mean? Because it's such a weird, almost self-obsessive thing to hear. And I find for an actor to talk about his process of acting, you know what I mean? It all seems so precious. But Jerome Prezon is someone who wanted to live the journey emotionally of Judas, and I wanted to investigate the dark, because it's so easy to play Jesus as a smiley, and it's wanted. I mean, like, there's a lot of pressure for me to smile through moments that why on earth would you smile at this moment? What is in vaguely charming or good about this particular moment? But there's lots of pressure for Jesus to be beautiful and angelic and and welcoming and warm and all those sort of stuff, all those sort of things. Which is there's a place for that, but in the moments of that production, the last 7 days, it's only the last 7 days of Jesus' life, and he knows at the top of our production that he knows he's on the journey he's on. He knows that the Jesus, that was Gail's direction right at the beginning. Right at the beginning of the film, I think the first time you see me, I'm coming down on a hydraulic riser thing, and Jerome's singing a song. But the first time you see me sort of in medium sort of close up or whatever, is I look miserable at the top of a staircase, and I just walk down to Judas and walk past him and stuff, and I'm looking quite miserable because that moment, Gail was very clear that is the moment that you have just been praying and had the message from your Father God that you are going to be crucified and beaten and tortured and all this sort of stuff, and you have to make it happen, because it's not going to happen unless you prod Judas and push him and don't answer the questions he wants. And so Gail's very specific direction was, you, Jesus, have to see that Judas is in pain and not help him. You have to see that Judas is unhappy with the way you're behaving with Mary and make it worse. And basically, Jesus was the person who was pushing Judas to do what he needed Judas to do in order to get himself in that series of events to Calvary. So that was Gail's specific direction. So there was, when you know that at the beginning, and you've got people saying, "Oh no, it's your first introduction. You must be smiling when you come down the stairs," and you've got Gail, director, who is a very powerful. She's a wonderful director. But there's lots of producers involved in these things. So, and the producer's going, no, you must smile. And Gail's going, don't you dare smile. Like, don't you dare. So it was one of those, everybody has a very clear feeling, a very clear idea of what they think Jesus or Jesus Christ Superstar should be. And Gail had hers. And my job as an actor is to play my director's, often actors, we pontificate about it, but we're just love puppets. Directors know this is what's happening here and this is what's happening, and you have to bring that to life. And that was my job. Was to do that. It wasn't to stand there and say, no, Gail, I don't agree. I think I want to smile, because then I might get a job playing such a thing later if I spend my whole film smiling and trying to look beautiful. So I just think that it was a difficult road, and Jerome, myself, and Gail wanted a specific production, and Renee, wanted a specific
dynamic
feeling. Sorry.
Oh, dynamic, because the dynamic between you two is what really grips me.
Yeah, he's incredibly powerful. Jerome is, because he was a film actor in France. He's done loads of films, and I'd only done one film about 6 weeks before that thing, so I hadn't been on screen very often. And Jerome, I could feel how brooding he not as a person. We go out for lunch and stuff, and we chat and have a laugh, and he's a lovely guy. But as a Judas, he was very brooding and not aggressive, but had a darkness about him, because it's very easy for Judas to be throwing stuff around and being tantrum, like a tantrum. But Jerome had a very weighted power about him, and I was blessed to. I mean, I've done Jesus. My version of Jesus is different depending on the Judas. So the credit of that goes to Jerome, really, because we all act off each other, don't we? We bounce off each other, and if one actor gives you something, if I react in the way that I want to, but isn't true to what they've given you, it doesn't work. So we play off each other all of the time. So Jesus are always different depending on the cast. So if it works, it's a lot of that credit has to go to Jerome, because he was very dark and brooding, and he didn't ever waver at all he didn't ever want to look cool. He didn't ever need to be heroic or handsome or charismatic or he just played what he thought he should be feeling and doing at that time. And that's not often you get that in a musical, because
No, I think that's a big reason of why it's such a powerful piece, because as an actor, but not like, exciting one or anything, I used this musical to get inspiration. The dynamic between you two, the facial expressions, particularly the argument at Last Supper where you're singing the argument and you're so into it, like it's completely natural. I'm like, holy crap, I need to aspire to be like this. Like, my God, I used Gethsemane for an audition song because you made it so powerful. I was like, absolutely. I'd heard no one else sing it the way you did. And so I went for it. And then I became Jemima in Cats. So
you have a nice one. Well
that was for Cats.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah, I mean, those, I've said it many times, Gethsemane the song, I only want to say why it's called that, I have no idea, but Gethsemane the song is quite possibly the greatest song for leading man to sing on its emotional journey, on its flips itself, Jesus's feelings flip from moment to moment, you know what I mean? Like,
and your portrayal of it was incredible. Like you did it, you snapped, you saw this really sucks, I hate this, and now F you, this is stupid and I don't want to do it anymore. And it was fantastic.
Oh, that's very kind of you. That's very kind of you. As always, you get notes from people. I got so many notes to stop, just because I would do things like which annoys people. It does annoy people. It annoys people. It annoys some directors, annoys some musical directors. They go, "Can you?" I used to go, "Can you show me now that I would not be killed in vain?" And because I shouted various moments, and I didn't care about the particular note, especially when I was doing it live as opposed to on the film. For me, that was because when I'm doing a musical, I am aware that I'm singing, but I'm not in my head. I'm not singing. It's not about singing. It's never been about singing for me. It's been about living what I'm supposed to be feeling. So I've never really cared if I speak some lines. I mean, I don't do this in particularly Jesus, but in other roles, I speak some lines that's supposed to be sung, or I shout a line or a word in a line that for me it needs emphasis because I'm trying to show some level of some frustration, whatever I'm trying to do.
That's what sets it apart. I'm telling you.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that because and as you know, if you've worked even in half a job at any time in our lives, actors know that everyone has an opinion. Everyone has an opinion of what you should be doing and why you should be doing it. And honestly, trust me, I know better than you do, sort of a thing. And it's sometimes it's difficult because I mean, I by this time I played. There was a member of the cast of one of the last productions I did of Jesus, who was her partner was an MD, a musical director, and he'd just come in to watch not a dress rehearsal, but a sound check, And for me, a sound check, you have to do your job. I don't mark a sound check because that's why having a sound check is to do what you do, so they know where your levels are and whatever. And so I always sang the song like I would sing the song, do the song like I would do it. And I overheard him talking, so I just went off to take a little sip of water, and he was round the corner but with part saying, "Why the hell does he sing it like that? There's some beautiful notes in that, and he's shouting them. What is he doing?" So people have, and it's not like I shout everything. It's not like I shout. There was a few moments like that for me, like it's just the frustration of like if I had a shirt I could rip open at that moment because of how we was feeling of like I've done everything you wanted, every single thing you asked me to do, I've done, and now you want like what do I get out of this, And for me, that's a huge level of frustration. Why, if you're not frustrated, I don't think you'd say those words, and that's why repeat them over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, I want to know. I have to know. I want to know. I want to. I have to know. That's a level of building frustration. and to be pretty with that is, I mean, I'm not saying that I sang it in an ugly way, but I wasn't afraid to
No,
make those noises, and or shout various moments of it.
But that adds the realness to it. Like the whole show, there was so much realness to it that it was riveting. Like I was like, yeah, okay, Jesus Christ, Superstar, whatever. And then I watched it, I'm like, why is this so good?
Oh, that's very sweet of you to say. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know because I'm doing it. I don't even know how it comes across. And I've never. And actors say this all the time now, and they do. But in truth, I've never read a review of mine ever. And I sometimes I see them on theatres, and I'm trying to read if the show's been well received or whatever, and I see me mentioned, and I know on Broadway that the show was very poorly reviewed, and I don't think there's anyone involved in that show that wouldn't agree with the negative reviews of it, to be fair. But when it was on Broadway, because it became very compromised. But I don't know what people think, and I don't think about it. For me, I just do it, and I go home, and I know, and I think that's something that's helped me a lot in my life. The way that I think about work is because a lot of people, certainly playing a character like Jesus, live it a little bit too much, and I know there have been some people who've played it who've had difficulty with it, playing it, There's some very powerful moments in it, the crucifixion and how you get there and what you're doing and stuff, and the history of it, and the responsibility of it for all of Christian, because I'm not a Christian, but all of the Christians, and you kind of want to give them, they're my brothers and sisters of humanity, and I want to give them what they, I want to, and there's a lot of responsibility goes along with that, and I acknowledge that. But when I walk away from it at night, I'd go home and I'd stick it. Whereas I know there's been a couple of actors who've not been able to do that and have found it difficult. For example, one of my understudies in the West End played it after I did, and ended up being quite ill and committed suicide. So but it's true, and he's not the only one that's had difficulty playing it. I don't relate to that because I don't play it like that. Do you know what I mean? I don't take the responsibility of it on. I invest into the emotion of it, as opposed to taking on any responsibility for what's being said or who it's for. I acknowledge it, but I don't really take it on board. And I think it's which is why I've managed to play it several times and not found it exhausting. I mean, it's exhausting, don't get me wrong, but not found it emotionally traumatic's probably not the right word, but it is very challenging for some actors who have taken it incredibly seriously. And I take the work seriously. I don't seem to have the same difficulty with it that some actors have had, which is why I can, if someone asked me to do a concert bit now, which no one does, by the way, I'd love someone to say, "Hey, do you want to do a concert of Jesus Christ Superstar?" I'd love to sing it again, to actually just sing it, as opposed to be thrown to my knees on the floor every night.
Well, we're born in Australia.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. It's one of those things. It's a great show. It's a beautiful score. It's challenging and episodic and everything. My whole point for this is that it is important to take the job seriously, but not too seriously. And yeah. I think it's been difficult. And I'm not going to mention any names, but I could name you 5 people that I've spoken to who've played it before me and played it since, who are known for playing it, who said, I really struggled with it. I really struggled with I don't want to almost tell you the stories of what they've said of how where their minds was going, and but there have been some that felt that they were truly a conduit and starting to speak for Christianity, and I've never felt that. So
that's a healthy place to be.
Say again, sorry.
Yeah,
didn't catch.
That's a healthy place to be.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think it's important to take your job seriously, but it's a job. I take it as a job, as opposed to it's not a life it's not you're not living something. You know what I mean? You are acting something, and I don't know. It is. Although Jerome and I very much, I mean, he speaks to Jerome about it because he's a very very clever guy. We wanted to investigate the darker side of it. We wanted to slightly live the darker side of it, but Jerome. It was the same. I worked with that because there was Tommy DeVito and Jersey Boys originally in the West End, and there's a guy in that who played Nick Massey, Philip Balcock, and Philip Balcock was the same in lots of ways as Jerome was, whereas Philip would be stood at the side as Nick Massey. Nick Massey is quite brooding in Jersey Boys. Philip would be stood at the side of the stage, like in a dark, very insular, centered place. And I'd go, "Hey, Philip, how you doing?" And he'd go, "Leave me, get out of my face, leave me alone." And Jerome's like that. But as soon as he's not there, he walks out the door, and he's not actually waiting to go on or waiting to play his role. He's not getting his head into his game. He's as light as anything. I mean, Philip's one of my best mates, and Jerome and Philip are quite similar like that. They really focus. As the moment they walk in to the moment they walk on. For me, I focus for 2 minutes before I go on stage, not 2 hours, not an hour. I warm my voice up and I do my other prep, but I don't get myself very much into the emotion of it off stage is my point. And I think that's my only cautionary thing that I've always said to anyone who says, "I'm going to play Jesus in a thing, what have you got any advice?" And it's don't get too dark with it. Don't get too emotionally into it. On stage, fine, but leave it behind, because it has caused people difficulty, and that's the truth,
But even with the difficulties that come along with really, embodying this particular historical figure, is the reason that your version is so loved, and Renee can attest to this, is because the version before it's groundbreaking, but there's still a lot of camp to it, glitter and glamour and flowers and sequins, and that's great for the time. But still, I've seen productions of JCS even over here that still camp it up, and it's it's almost it's hair mixed with whatever. And I think the reason that your version is so loved is because it doesn't shy away from the darker parts of the human psyche and the human emotion. And the way that, Gail directed it and the way that you all play it, and even the costumes of like the Roman soldiers, it looks modern. It looks like it. And I think the reason people resonated with your version so much is that it feels like it could take place right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was very like punk rock, and you had, the on the TVs in the background, the airplanes and all that, the warplanes. And then the Romans, the council looked like Cenobites, like straight out of Clive Barker. I was like, wow.
Yeah. But that's Gail. Gail knew what she wanted to do, and she knew what she wanted to achieve, and she set about doing it. And she's very single-minded, and she was a wonderful person to work with on that particular show. She's a tough director, but she drags things out of you that you kind of think, I can't do that 8 shows a week. I can't, it's physically impossible. It's not impossible, actually, because if you know what I mean, it's not. She has a way of taking you and putting you in a place that she wants you to be, and quite often it's a place where you didn't think you'd be able to sustain or whatever. She was a great director to work with, and I worked with Gail, I think 3 times. I think I worked with Gail, something like that, because I did Whistle Down the Wind with her. She was the director of Whistle Down the Wind in Lloyd Webber's Whistle Down the Wind in London as well. I did that with her, and something else, I can't remember what. I think Jesus Twice. But she was great, every time challenging, every time pushing you, to get you to. And you can't fake stuff with Gail. If she doesn't believe you, she'll just say you're shit. Oh, shit.
Wow.
But you want that. You want to hear that. You want to hear that's actually not anywhere near good enough, or you want to hear that. And if you watch the DVD extras, which I've seen twice, I think, Gail's very like she has you back too. You know what I mean? She was like she pushes you to a place, and then she protects you when you're there. If you see what I mean, in the rehearsal room, she was great. She was great. I really, really loved. I'd love to do something else with her some other time, some other place. You know, something different because she was a great person to work with. Loved her.
But yeah, your version, and because we've said all this, you've hit on things. It's so beloved because it's real. It's very based in reality. And the only supernatural quote unquote moment, the way that she directed it and the way that you and Jerome played it, it's that even the mystical sequences, it could easily just be in Christ's mind. Versus, versus the other versions I've seen on stage in the original 70s versions, even Superstar itself, you're like, is this really happening? Is Christ, hallucinating, or is Judas literally coming down from heaven or hell and saying, excuse me, who are you? But in your version, it's so real that particular sequence is jarring, even though it's beautiful. And I love the way that the angels look in their sort of BDSM gear. I think there's some interesting costume choices. I think that sort of is amazing. But I've always wanted to ask you this. I never thought I would.
All those three, they've all gone on to do stuff. The girls that did that on Broadway, the American production, my production, have all gone on. One was Mel was in Newsroom. One of the other girls was in it was a recent sort of box set series where she was like a post-apocalyptic thing where she was this, like, they've all gone on to do amazing stuff. They're great. It was a great group of women that both there and in on the film.
But separating your GCS, JCS, and then other JCSs, because your version's the only version in our minds and in our hearts. I've always wanted to ask you this. In your version of Superstar, when Jerome comes down, Jesus is exhausted. The way that you play it is as a man who's literally pushed to his physical and mental and psychological limit. So when that whole Superstar, song happens, in your opinion, just from the Jesus that you played, forget about the rest of the Jesuses and your portrayal of that character of Jesus, what do you think is in his mind? Do you think he's hallucinating from dehydration, or do you think it's a combination of both, where Jerome's Judas comes down and saying, why did you choose this time? Why did it have to be me?
I think, it's a good question, because I think everything is happening in his mind at those moments. Everything. I mean, he is physically. I mean, it's just. I used to go too far with that whole thing. I dislocated my knee once, just pretending I was carrying a heavy cross, because there was just.
Wow!
But it's such an intense sequence that what I think is happening to Jesus is the fact that he's thinking of all the things, that when he's dragging the cross, which is what he's doing. He's on the road to Calvary and Calvary Hill, and and he's basically listening to the crowd scream things at him, and curse him and throwing stuff at him and kicking him as he's going. So he's hearing snippets of stuff which is sparking off thoughts in his mind and remembrances, and also Gail wanted to play it. She was making a comment really on everything. We did the film a lot at the time. I think I don't want to speak for Gail, but these are things that we talked about. Is that she's making comments on the world, not necessarily just on Jesus. The fact that we revel in the destruction of someone. We love it. It's like I played. It's very similar. I played Floyd Collins in London, and it was one of my favorite things I've ever done, and one of the favorite scores I've ever sung. I just absolutely love that thing. But the truth of Floyd Collins is, when he was down there and he was trapped in the cave, in the sand cave, Floyd Collins was down there trapped. There was an avalanche, his legs were trapped, and he was there. And eventually, I don't spoil it for anyone, but eventually he just a few moments before they got to him, when they were digging the tunnel to get him out, he died just a few moments, but he was still warm, when they found him, but he was dead. That, because somebody was suffering, somebody that was famous for finding the big crystal cave and all this sort of stuff, was actually now trapped underground. it was the first press hysteria, apparently the first historical occurrence of press hysteria, where the press were outside, a fairground set up outside in the ground, because people were going there to see the cave entrance where the guy was trapped downstairs. People, we forget as a humanity when we're watching stuff on TV that actually somebody in the center of there is really, really, really suffering. And I don't want to draw comparisons with any wars that are around the world, but we forget that, like, oh, what's happened in this particular conflict today. Things become entertainment. And I think Gail's comment particularly, which is why she had Judas as a, so how do you feel? So how's it going? Interviewing someone who's about to die, and was about to die in an awful, torturous way, was her comment on the way that humanity behaves towards humanity on a daily basis. So what
and
Jesus... Go on. No, go on.
Well, I think the reason it resonates so much with people my age and younger is that it predated reality TV with the paparazzi and Jesus on the big screens. That's why my generation and younger resonate with that, because it's as if you take Christ and place him now. That would be happening. You would have people, CNN and Fox News out there, and you would have people, paparazzi. You would have things on big screen. Like you said, people want to say, I call people false humanitarians. They want to say that they care about humanity, but they're the ones that are like, oh, let's Google and see. It's like they have t-shirts of save this particular cause, but they're actually just doing it by typing on their keyboard. They're actually not going out there and volunteering and doing anything.
Exactly that. And that is, I'm not saying Gail is in any way, that is a symptom, that behavior of, always being, having the banners up, on Facebook or whatever the on Instagram,
whatever the cause of the month is.
Whatever it is, whatever the buzz thing is, do it. But you just do it by pressing the button, then you go back to your normal life and do nothing else. That is only a symptom of the humanity that has always been. And Gail was very aware that humanity has always been that. And so that was her comment. So it was just her commenting on that's what, if Jesus had died today, it would have been if he was going to be go with the hatred that he was facing at that particular time, going to that hill, it would have been a special 2-hour special, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. It would have been a 2-hour special. Everybody would have been chucking stones at him and going, look at him, boo, and hating him on social media. There'd be, camps of people hating, and it would all be, it was just hysteria. People lose their minds. People lose their minds when it comes to these sort of things. And I don't know why. It's never, things don't, I'm either fortunate or unfortunate, I don't know, but they don't affect me necessarily like that very often. I don't necessarily get emotionally involved in those things, but that was certainly Gail's attempted comment about that. And ensure you on Instagram and social media particularly, although it didn't exist then, you're right, you see it all the more now. But it's always been the same, because that's part of humanity, and it's part of who we are, and part of the challenges that we as a humanity have got to get over. We've got to do better. We have to do better. And
I hate that it's still relevant. I hate that this is still
but that's the thing. But it so is. And Gail's direction to me was, I had to suffer as much as possible in the middle, whilst everyone else is smiling. I had to suffer as much as I possibly could. So that was the direction. But one thing Gail asked me to do that I could never do, just couldn't do it. I didn't have at the time. I could probably do it now, but I didn't have I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Is that the moment where you notice where Jesus is dragged up the stairs, and I think I'm being dragged between two of the Roman guards at that particular moment, and then all of a sudden it goes still, and Judas is looking at Jesus, looking at him, just staring at him. Mm-hmm. Gail wanted me to be equally as still and looking at him, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't. That was where I think that was probably that Jerome had done a little bit more film work than I had at the time. He had just had an ability in that moment that I just hadn't grown into yet, where where he could just literally be this guy and then suddenly just go back into reality and stare at me. And I couldn't. If you look in the film, I'm still out of breath and I'm still moving and I'm still not. I couldn't get it together to just be still, because for me it felt like a betrayal of what I was supposed to be actually living, and what Christ would have actually been like in those moments. And I kind of, if I'm honest, I kind of spoil the moment because it's just not still enough. And it's just something that I couldn't do. I couldn't. Those, I mean, I could probably, as I say, I could probably do it now, where I could snap out of it and go into a mode of I'm making a film. But at that particular moment, I think maybe I didn't want to. I didn't. I felt would be a betrayal. But every time I look at the film, I could bite my lip really hard because I know I basically fucked the moment up. I need to be still. It's a moment from I think it's what's the name of the Lawrence of Arabia? Apparently it's a moment from Lawrence of Arabia. Gail was saying, I forget, where the two characters who are hating each other and fighting each other at war are just looking at each other, and it's stillness in the middle of a battle or something. I've not actually don't remember the film that well, but I didn't deliver it particularly well, and there are some moments in that I was asked to do that I couldn't do, that one particularly, and
Can I ask you a question about? I'm just interested in the physics of it. When they actually crucified you, were you standing? You were standing on something, right?
I can't remember that. There's a mechanism. The mechanism is different on each of the crosses that I've been on. I've been on like 6, I think, different production crosses.
That's rough, buddy.
I think it's Some of them really hurt. I have to say, some of them really hurt, and one of them broke, and I had to hold it up, and I dislocated ribs in my neck because one of the arms it was bolted at the back for some reason. It slipped down, so I didn't want to stand with a cross beside because I would have fallen off in reality. so I thought, okay, I'm gonna have to hold this up. So I held it up for the entire crucifixion, and in doing so, I popped some ribs in my shit, and I was like, oh, in cramp. But yes, usually
too much method acting.
yeah. I just thought I can't let it, because if I thought I would literally, in reality, it's been ruin the show for everyone. So I think the film one, yes, I think the film cross was the original West End cross, which was Gail's original production. And that was a seat and a little foot place to stand. You can put your heel on. There was it's only about this big, and it was covered in leather and a pouch. So it's a metal, it folded into the cross, and you pulled it down and come out about that far. And you put your heel on it and hang your foot over like this, and just lay your other foot across the top. So your feet are like this over it, but your heel was just on that thing like this. So that's what I was on. So it's hard, and the cross had a little panel, like, so the cross is there, and it had something they fold out like this. So this bit was painted pink and this bit was painted black. So that looked like a nail. So then what Jesus would do is he'd come in and put his hand in like that.
I love it. See, I love
so I would hold on to that.
The magic.
Yeah, so I would hold on to that. So that I would pull myself back, because the cross, in reality, the cross would have been vertical, but in theatre, the cross had to be like this.
Yeah.
Which you don't see in the film, because you can't stay on it otherwise. You've got all your body weight. You're holding on this thing. But your weight is still very forward, because your whole body's hanging off the front of something that's laying back. So you're here. So you're still pulling the whole cross this way. So it's hard to hold on. It's never comfortable. If it's a good cross and it looks real, it's really uncomfortable for the Jesus, So yeah, I used to have to hold myself almost in a contraction, to hold yourself, so you don't fall off, and you're holding yourself up. And in the West End one, there was a little seat that used to come out as well. So when they're putting you on it, the guards are nailing you in. They just lift the seat, so you have a little seat to sit on. But the seat was just so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable because it just goes.
Were you exhausted at the end of every show? Were you ever exhausted?
In truth, to play one thing I was very proud of in playing that role live, because obviously doing the film is very different to doing the show. Doing the show, I had to live like a monk. I had to. I never went out. I didn't even go to the opening night party. You know what I mean? I just went home, which is terrible. You know, I had to on the Broadway production, but I played it a lot at that time. When I first took over in the West End, I didn't want to speak after it because I was exhausted because I sang because Jesus sings the first act. It doesn't do anything in Act Two, really. It's all reaction, beating reaction. And I did all of the reactions really. So, you know, I was screaming, making noises with my voice that I should never have done. I mean, I could have ended up really destroying my singing voice. Really, I had to be very careful. But I would never mark the show. So I would go home and I would have a bath, I'd steam, I'd hydrate myself before I went to bed, which is a nightmare because then you have to get up to get the loo like 6 times a night. Then I'd get up in the morning, I'd sleep as much as I could. If I could get 8 hours sleep, which is not usual for me, I'm like I know about 3 or 4 hours a night. But really to sing well, I know it's terrible. I've had a problem sleeping all my life. But to really get my voice back, I need to have 8 hours. So I would desperately try and pretend I was asleep by just pretending, like by relaxing. I started meditation at the time to meditate, to pretend I was asleep in order to try and recover, because my voice would be like this in the mornings, you know, and not from the singing, but from all of the rest of the stuff I was doing, which was just, I guess just my inexperience of holding down that. I should never have done that, you know. So was I exhausted? I was so exhausted at the end of the live productions initially. Now, not so much. If I was to do it again now, no. But initially, yeah, because I've learned now where I can pace myself and not compromise what I need to do. Whereas I didn't believe in pacing or pacing myself, you know, if you use that term, but you know, I didn't sit back on anything. Like every single thing I did in those productions was full out, and that was a bit of a road to self-destruction. If I'd have then also wanted to go out and go, hey, yeah, you know, hey, nice to meet you, you know, let's have a glass of wine at night in the bar or a pub, or go out for dinner with people, or you know, allow myself to be wined and dined or invited out and place. I didn't ever go out. I mean, I literally didn't go out. It's like I disappeared off the face of the earth to my friends when I played that role, and that was important for me to survive it vocally, only vocally, because I just did too much of the rest of it, you know. Like if you listen to my voice in the Superstar film, in the Crucifixion, I'm making sounds with my voice that singers shouldn't be doing that, you know, because I'm kind of really disturbing my vocal cords, you know. And as a singer, which I have to be a singer in order to sustain a musical, I was doing stuff that I shouldn't have been doing to my voice. And thankfully, it hasn't damaged my voice. My voice is stronger now than it's ever been. But I had to be incredibly careful off stage. Like sometimes I wouldn't speak in the daytime, and I'd get up in the morning, and before I'd speak, I'd hydrate my voice fully. Like I'd be fully hydrated, and then I'd warm up for like half an hour, just very quiet hums, and then I'd do like another sort of 40 minutes, an hour later, just like proper singing to get my voice sort of settled, to try and get any swelling that develops in your voice, because, you know, when your voice in the morning, you wake up and it's gruff. It's because your vocal cords are vocal folds are slightly swollen, you know, just from sleep and whatever. So I would try and just massage my voice by doing basic building exercises and scales in the middle of the day. Then I'd do another hour before I went to the show warm-up, and then I do the show warm-up, and then I continue humming right up until I started. And some days I could only get rid of the swelling in my voice just as I was about to start. Like I had to work hard at it, but that wasn't from the singing. It was from the fact that I couldn't allow myself to pace anything. I couldn't. It's like the same reason why. There's the same reason when in the film I couldn't just be an actor for a minute. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't just be in that film. I had to still be in pain and out of breath, and because I was in pain and out of breath at that point of the thing. But you know, from carrying the cross isn't light. because it's the cross you go up on, so it's made of steel and it's wood, and so it's very heavy. So it is a heavy thing to carry around stage, and we had to carry it around a long way. I had to initially around a circular stage and up, and then so you are in pain. You're carrying it, digging into your shoulder. It wasn't comfortable in that production because it was such a heavy cross. It wasn't a fake. The cross wasn't already there. Like I've seen some productions where Jesus is carrying a light cross, and then he's picked up and he's put on the set, and the set is a cross. I carried the cross, so it was a massive piece of steel. So that's
that's dedication.
It was just,
I'm here
no
for
choice.
it. Your sacrifice has influenced us all.
Yeah, but that's what you have to. That was it. I mean, it was it was in places exhausting, but I'd love to be doing it now. That's the thing. It's such a great thing to do, to live it and to sing it. To come on the good end of Gethsemane, as in you just finished it, and you've got all of that behind you, and you've done it well. As far as you're concerned, as well as you're capable of doing. It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling to get to that song. Such a wonderful piece of theatre.
It is, and I know we keep saying this, but it was so inspirational. It changed my acting methods. It really helped me move forward, and I've used now 2 songs from Jesus Christ from that version to audition. The last one I used was Judas's Heaven on Your Minds.
Right,
it's so seriously, thank you from the bottom of my heart, because A, you made me like the musical Jesus Christ Superstar. I had no interest in liking it. And B, you taught me how to put emotion into song, and that sometimes it is good to stop and yell something because it makes it more real. And how to, if you get another actor, like our usual co-host, Hades Nuts, I do a lot of performing with her. And when you're opposite someone that you can really mesh with, you can really put on a fantastic show. And that's what you and Roman did. Jerome. God, that's what you and Jerome did. And to this day, I will, if people, I try to get them to watch it. I've gotten Janice to watch it, but no, you don't understand. This is the version right here. This is it. So thank you from an actor for helping me to get better just by the way you did it and showing me how.
It's very kind of you to say, and I'm glad, because I love doing it. It meant a lot to me, and I did literally do. I mean, I really. It was such an important thing for me to do well, just out of respect for it, because so many people in the world have such an affinity with that character.
And you did that. I don't think anybody. Well, okay, so idiots disagree, but the ones who have class know that you did exactly that. And you succeeded. And
on that, what I was going to say is that I've followed, your career, and I followed the inception of Jesus Christ Superstar. What critics didn't get and what they were upset about, they wanted the 70s bell bottoms, glitter and glamour on stage again in 1999. That wouldn't have, people were dumbed down with Jesus Christ Superstar. If you do all of that, you don't get the message of it. And it's wonderful, and it's fabulous, and it's funny. I've been in productions of Jesus Christ Superstar where audiences laugh. And and it's it's not a testament to the production at all. And what I say is that the reason that your production, the movie, has resonated so much where people online consider it the quintessential Jesus Christ Superstar is that it really changed the game for every single production afterwards. Production nowadays are earthy and they're dark, and there's no glamorous costumes anymore. They're all in what you all are wearing. But what you were all criticized for, actually, critics don't know what the hell they're talking about. It actually paved the way for the reinvention of Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like everything. You have to have. There's no point in redoing something the way it's been done before. You always have to put your own spin on it. I think, and yes, it did. There was a conversation that was relayed to me. I wasn't present for it, where Gail Edwards, the director, was with Andrew Lloyd Webber Lord Lloyd Webber, Sir Andrew, for a conversation about what they were going to do. And Andrew Lloyd Webber, apparently, and I can never remember the name of the artist or the name of the picture, said, "That is what I want this
Christ
show."
dead on the slab.
Yeah, I don't even know. I can't remember. It was a
Yes,
particular
Christ
painting.
dead on the slab.
Okay, is that it? Okay. And she said, he said to her, "That's what I want." And Gail said, "Good, because that's what I want." And that's what they did. Is they had a clear idea of what they wanted, and they just set about looking for people that they thought could do that. And the audition process was, yeah, for me, I had to sing Gethsemane to see if I could sing it. But the majority of my audition process was Gail asking me what I thought about things. Do you know what I mean?
Amazing.
What I thought. There's another director who did that with me once, a director called Glenn Walford, the first Shakespeare play I ever did. And I've been very fortunate to do like 3 or 4, lead roles in Shakespeare plays. And Glenn Walford, the first time, I was just a musical theatre boy, really. I think I'd understudied Marius and played Marius, like 200 odd times, and it's all I'd done in the West End. I think it was the American in chess for a little while, and I wanted to do something else. I wanted to try something else, see if I was any good at other, if I could act and stuff, So, and I'd heard that there was an audition for Hamlet. And I thought, oh, okay. So I went and I learned some speeches, and I had a couple of speeches from college, that I thought, I'll just polish those up a bit. And I went in there, and then Glenn Walford, she said, "What are you going to do for me?" And I said, "Well, I brought a couple of speeches. I brought Laertes for this, and I brought that, and I brought Hotspur, and I brought Hamlet, and I brought something from." And they said, "They're speeches. Anyone can learn to do a speech. I want to see you play utter humiliation. Just make up your words. I don't care what you do. I want you to play utter humiliation right now. So just do something for me." And so you had to improvise utter humiliation. And then she said, "Now I want you to play, I want you to flirt with me. Flirt. I want you to be, without being sexual, I want you to flirt with me." And then she said, okay, now I want you to, without telling me you absolutely despise me, I want you to tell me you despise me without saying it, but I want you to improvise with it. So Glenn Walford made me act. I got the roles. The first time I thought, actually, I can do this. If I know what I'm required of me, I can actually do this. I don't have to just sing. I can actually, if I know what I'm supposed to be doing, I can do that. And Glenn Walford, I suddenly realized that actually with the right director, actors, we can do really good stuff. And sometimes when an actor gets bad reviews, it's not necessarily the actor's bad. It's maybe the director hasn't helped so much. And sometimes when an actor gets great reviews, it's because the director helped a lot, and the actor really was taken to a place that he hadn't been before or couldn't get there. It's not always so obvious for critics. You say some critics are terrible, but it's a very difficult job. I'm not defending critics, don't get me wrong, but one thing I am aware of, very much working for as long and doing as many things as I've done, is that sometimes I could be seen as being not as good as perhaps I wanted to be, or I could have been, because a director hasn't wanted that. They've wanted this. And then that's what's been disliked. And then obviously the actor gets and also there's been moments where I could have said an amazing performance by Glenn, and that's, I'm doing something that I didn't believe in because I was told I wanted to do something else, which wasn't as good as where I was taken. So it's a chemistry thing between people. It's never one person's fault. So yes, you can get bad reviews, but I got that. I just do it because I don't care. Like I do the best work I can. I do the best I can, and if someone doesn't like it, then they don't like it. And there's always one absolute truth in life that thankfully, my father told me when I was like 16 or 15 or something. He said, whatever you do in life, 33% are going to love you, 33 are going to hate you, 33 don't give a shit if you live or die. So don't worry about it. Don't change yourself to be what somebody else wants. Do your best work, do your best. everything. If you do your best, 33% of people are going to like it, 30% are going to hate it, 30% don't care. And it's always the equation. So if there's a moment where I go, oh, I really could have done this so much better, well, the 33% of people that loved it that time, they're going to be the ones that hate it or don't care, and the ones that hated it, the ones that now love it, you still got your 33%. It changes very little. So you just have faith in your director, and try and build a relationship with them. Try and work out what's the best for this role, and do your best work. And then I guarantee there's going to be a percentage of people who think you're total shit, and a percentage that don't care, and a percentage who think you're brilliant. And that is always the case, which is why I don't have a file of great reviews that lots of actors have. I haven't kept any. I don't like it. What I've kept are cards from people I've worked with, afterwards, the things between people, because our job as actors, we share great journeys often with great people. And there's been moments and relationships that I built over the years in the theatre that are just incredible, irreplaceable moments with people. And then you don't see them again for 50 years or maybe ever again, but they're wonderful moments with people. I certainly don't worry about critics or reviews. Do my best.
I'll just say three things, and this is it. The first is, I think people just didn't get what your JCS was doing because it broke the mold for literally ever, in terms of performances have tried to regress, to go back to the bell bottoms and the glitter and the glamour, and they failed miserably. So what your Jesus Christ Superstar did was transform it and transfer it into the present day, and really play onto the celebrity culture. And now other productions, like the one that's touring in the UK, follow suit. The one with Mel B or Mel C that was filmed at the arena does what yours did. There's cameras, there's paparazzis. So yours was before its time. And sometimes when things are before its time, and especially if you're reinventing and doing something completely different, people don't know how to deal with it. But your version is what resonates with people because it's so real. And I've been to productions of JCS that I've watched the original version, but with your version, at the end of your crucifixion and all of that, and there's that really somber moment where Gail shot, the cross glows, and it's just very quiet. And it's like, you get sad. You're like, you realize it's not like you're having a religious experience or anything of that nature, but it's like, wow, these people, regardless if they were real or not, they really had all this, Jesus, Mary, and Judas all had the cards stacked against them. And you're like, you feel sad, and you feel you feel somberness from your version that you don't get from other versions. And I mean, the way it ends is incredible, that you have the cross, all of that's gone. Everybody walks away from you while you're on the cross, you're dead, and they walk away from you. And then you realize that it's over.
Yeah, they're the apostles going off into their various journeys, into their various continents where they were off to carry the message of Christ. That's why they all walk off in the film in a different direction. They all go off. They're now following what Jesus said, which is, you go there, you go there. This is your journey. Your journey is to go across the water to this country to spread the message. So that's what again was Gail's symbolism. There's something I wanted to say about what you're saying that I thought was quite important, and I just completely slipped my mind.
It was the way that ends. It's very somber, whereas other productions, it's. Yeah,
that's it. That's thank you. That's exactly, you triggered it again for me. Is that Gail wanted because there was an issue with the stage production of the film, because it was Gail's ultimate version was designed by John Napier, and he was the designer of that particular production. That Gail was her ultimate production, was what she wanted. And there was as in business, he didn't want it to go to film or something. There was conversations had, and he didn't want to design the film, so they got a different designer. So it's slightly different. But in the stage show of that particular stage show, the entire cast, everybody was so committed in the theatre show, in the stage show, in the original, the West End version of that, of Gail's journey as the Jesus Christ Superstar director, is that it was it's so dark and so painful. On the cross at the end, it used to rain and they used to have light, so they had to the rain started to fall out of the stuff in the gods, and so like a little bit flash of lightning, and then it would be raining as Christ taken off the cross, and it is so heartbreaking. And that's not the film version, but it was so heartbreaking and so tender, and such a moment that nobody, including Gail, wanted to do a curtain call. We were going to literally just take Christ off, walk him off, lights up, goodbye. No, here we are, taking a bow. Hey, I'm fine. I'm not really dead. And she wanted that. And there was a period of time where she was fighting for us to not actually do a curtain call, because she felt it was so important to her, from what I remember from the conversation, it's 20 odd years ago now, but she said, what we do when we do a curtain call at the end of Jesus Christ Superstar is we diffuse all of the emotion that we've just taken people to, and we help them out of it and make them smile and clap and get them back into a state of they can walk out the door now and having seen a show. Where she thought it was an important story about the suffering of humanity at the hands of humanity, as opposed to Jesus suffering at the hands of a group of people, or a country, or a political regime. That it was humanity suffering at the hands of humanity. She didn't want to diffuse it. She wanted to leave people in their utter, torn apart despair at the end. And I wanted that too, because it was the hardest thing in the world, just to come down and go, hey, and have a bow. Because you just feel like such a con man. Do you know what I mean? Because you've just done this thing and then you just walk out and show that actually I'm fine, and you don't worry about it. But I hated the bows every time. Even the last production I did, I don't want to bow after doing that, because it just feels like almost you're selling it out. It becomes something. In a way, it made me feel the same way as I would have done had I suddenly gone and stared at Judas in that moment. It felt wrong, and she was always outvoted by producers, and she was never allowed to do it, and we were never allowed to try it, because they thought it would just be too cruel for an audience. But I thought the closest
they want the immersive experience.
Yeah, but the closest you get to it is in the film. The closest you get is the film, because it does have that after John, whatever the thing is, the piece of music, which is beautiful, which is Gethsemane, isn't it? The piece of music, where when they do walk away, that's why they come back with a do 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 do, and they show everybody doing the thing, is to try and help people out of the despair. But the film is the closest it came, because there aren't really any bows. But it was a brave thing that Gail wanted, and she was never allowed to try. And we also tried in the show, we tried the interval in different places. Because originally Gethsemane opened Act 2.
I mean, there's still, even though I've seen it like 4 or 5 times now, I still like get brought to like near tears at certain parts, because I'm like, that's rough. You really do a great job of bringing the person, whoever's watching, right there with you.
My second thing was that you are like the realest Jesus to me, and what you said about like not taking it on is really important, because the original Mary Magdalene said that Mia Von Elliman, of course, which is a big disco singer in the 70s, she said there was years that she could never sing it again, because people had so much responsibility. Like, she was asked to go to people's deathbeds, and she was asked to go hold people's hands when they died to sing "I Don't Know How to Love Him."
Me too. Happened to me hundreds of times.
Oh, that's ballsy.
Yeah, wow. It's not to sing Yvonne Elliman, not to sing her song, but I've been asked to bless dying children. There was last time I was in Leeds, a woman brought her very sick young child, and
that's a heavy role. That's a heavy burden.
But this is
a lot of people can't separate that too. Jeez.
This is what I mean. Whereas for certain, I'm right or wrong. I'm of the character where, if that's the case, I want to phone social services as opposed to want to buy into it and say, oh, I mean, yes, I was very loving to the child and to the woman, but all I could say is, I'm not Jesus. I give you all of my love. I'm just an actor. I mean, I won't buy into it. And I think some actors who played it have felt a responsibility to buy into other people's investment in the character, and that can be quite a difficult thing. That's what I was saying at the beginning. It's quite a hard. It can be quite a difficult role. You've got to leave it behind. Got to leave it behind, And however awful and sad, it is. Another time I had, again in the north of England, I had a woman and her slightly older child come, and the child, the mother of the child was saying, Jesus, please bless us. We've had a hard year. Jesus, please, can you please bless us and change our lives have been so difficult. Please, can you give us your blessing? And the young son, must have been about 9 years old, was saying, Mum, no, come away. Mum, he's an actor. Mum, please, Mum. And the mum was very convinced that those things are very difficult to deal with. And it's a reality at times of playing, not all the time, but it's a reality at times of playing those kind of characters, which is why I'm saying that it's worth knowing going in that you may not have that. It may not happen to you, but it certainly happened to me lots of times, lots and lots and lots of times, lots of
But
times.
you handle it well. I mean, like you said, the psychological aspect, Gail's directing, your own experience as an actor, you were able to separate that mystique because some people can't, And Yvonne's just now being able to play Mary Magdalene again. But she said there was years that she had to distance herself from Mary because it was a heavy gig. She said it's a heavy gig.
Yeah, of course, yeah, and those things can be. It depends. Again, it depends on the people you're around, the director, the environment you're doing it in, the way that other people around you are thinking and feeling about it, your own perspective, your own psychology. There's a lot at play, but it's a reality of playing those type of roles that some people invest in it in a way that isn't healthy for you as an actor, and you've got to be able to. I encourage every actor to stay as an actor in doing those things.
This is a light thing to end on. This movie came out when I was 10, but when I was 11, I got onto the DVD, and I grew up very religiously constricted. And so Jesus Christ Superstar, I was obsessed with it. Other things, kids are obsessed with other things. I guess I was a strange child. I was obsessed with your version of Jesus Christ Superstar. So it's amazing that I'm speaking with you. You've exceeded our expectations in kindness and just being wonderful. But your version of Jesus Christ Superstar, to grow up, I went to Christian school. I was really constricted in things. It was your version of Jesus Christ Superstar was the first grain of doubt, or the grain of maybe there's other ways out there that it really transformed my life in ways that I can't ever, I guess, thank you for as an actor, because I grew up in such a silo that where like it's your version of Jesus Christ Superstar was something that changed my life, because I'm like, actually, it transformed me in a way that I guess mentally, psychologically, spiritually, and that's not a heavy gig. It did, because of your portrayal of Jesus and Jerome's portrayal of Judas, because you're sold a narrative, and to see someone play it in a different way that's against the narrative that is, I guess, part of the ethos and part of the public consciousness, really, it planted a seed of truth, and a seed of, and now I'm able to look at Jesus Christ Superstar in different ways. And especially, I don't know how to say this, but like your particular version just planted a seed of just doubt and a seed of truth. And also, like, now I have a seed of empathy because of it. Because regardless of what other people think about these particular historical characters, like you said, regardless, I'm not a Christian either. but the way that you play it, you still have empathy because these are human beings
Yeah.
that are
You
treated this
make
way,
it
not by
real.
not some mystical force. It's human beings being treated this way by human beings. And I think that's why I've come full circle with it. And your particular portrayal of Jesus has given me empathy to be like, these are real human beings, and imagine how it could have been to be in that particular situation. It's
Yep.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing, and I think the relevance of this is that we're cruel to each other right across the planet today, right now. In fact,
Yep.
I guarantee right now, and then again right now, and then again right now, and that's the relevance of. I mean, Jesus Christ Superstar is a musical, and it's it's a story, the greatest story ever told, and it's about Jesus and Christianity and the birth of Christianity, all that sort of stuff. But it's about way more than that, and for me, it was never about the greatest story ever told and about Christianity.
passion play, yeah.
Yeah, it was about the way human beings treat human beings, and Jesus, the Jesus in the Jesus Christ Superstar may well have been, a messenger of God. He may, I don't, have a view on it. He may well have been the reincarnation of God on earth. He may well
or
have been
the right person at the wrong time,
all
or
of
the right person at the right time.
all of those things. The truth is, he was probably all of those things all at the same time, because I again, I'm an atheist, so I don't believe in a singular God,
Yeah.
but I do believe that whenever I do something good for someone, and I think it's really the right thing to do, whether it's a difficult thing, that I think I'm doing good for myself and good for everyone, good for humanity, good for everyone, and I think if Jesus was just someone like that, just someone who was just trying to do his best and wasn't who you say it is, still as powerful a story. It's still a powerful story, which is why it's not about. Yes, I have utmost respect for Christianity, and I certainly, and in fact, I don't want to be political, of course, because it's not the right forum for it. But if you look at what's going on in the world and the divisions in the world, whether it be in America or across the world on many levels, often the voices that are the ones that are the bravest to stand up and fight for what they think is the right thing for humanity are those people who have got deep seated faith and belief in something greater than themselves. And they're outspoken, trying to fight for whatever their cause is, but they're fearless and they're brave because they believe in something greater than themselves. Rightly or wrongly, I don't care if God exists, or it's aliens that created the world, or it's Darwinian evolution. I don't really care. What I care about is human beings and the way that we behave, and can we be better? We certainly should be better. And Jesus Christ Superstar for me was always a story of how humans treat humans, and how we as viewers, every time we watch it, even enjoy it. Because even when we enjoy it, it's difficult because we're enjoying watching it because we're feeling something, yes. But it's hard for me, from my perspective, to even enjoy it, because if I believe it's real, and I believe it's happening now, and I believe it's happening in, I could name many places around the world. They're on the tip of all of our tongues because it's happening on a daily basis in these places. That's the reality of life, and that's what Jesus Christ Superstar and that story was about for me, not about being the Son of God, which I never played because I couldn't.
And I think, and I'll end on this, is that I think that's what made critics and other people uncomfortable, is because Gail's direction, the way that you all basically rewrote it by playing it different, it turned the mirror on society. This is pre 9/11.
Yeah.
I mean, this is pre-reality TV.
Mm-hmm.
You're all, especially with Jesus being crucified and the paparazzi and the flashing of the cameras and Jesus being on the big screen. I think it made people uncomfortable with your production because it was actually turning the mirror on them and how they were actually, how people get so scared when they see themselves.
Yeah, totally. And that was the whole point. And the whole point of that journey we were talking about, the journey to Calvary and Superstar, is that I think Gail's goal was in the film and in the stage production was that song, is such a great groovy song. Is if you caught people, she wanted people to catch themselves tapping their feet and singing along and bopping along to it and realize what was actually happening, because that's what we do all of the time. All of the time, we can watch, like, for example, just one. It's possibly a silly example. I have seen, that explosion that happened in Beirut. Remember the huge, big explosion? It was a firework barge or something happened, and it was the biggest explosion I've ever seen. I have seen that gone viral around social media. I don't know, 100 times, 500 times. Constantly pops up on feeds. People saying, "Look at this explosion! Look at this explosion!" People died. Like, people were being ripped. Their bodies were being ripped apart, and it's now a matter of entertainment. That's what that's scene is for, is to try and make us aware of the responsibility we all have in these moments, because we all have. It's like, they say, newspapers, if you ask somebody in the street, do you think newspapers should be more responsible, the way that they hound the royal family, for example? Like, I just read Spare, the book of Prince Harry, and should they be hounded like that? Should they be handled like? Should they? The vast majority of people in the world will say, of course they shouldn't be. They should be allowed to have their private life. But the truth is, every time a story appears, everybody goes and buys it. When there's a hateful headline where somebody's been humiliated in public, or someone's life has been torn apart, or a big scandal is broken, the circulation of these newspapers goes through the roof. People tune in to find out what's gone on, and go onto the social media feed to read. And that's the truth of it. We create it. We make it. We want it. And that's what it's a musical, let's face it, and it's a musical film, and it was on Broadway. But that is what Gail and what myself and Jerome and those people trying to just communicate something that
which is completely different than the original production and any production before or after. It's so camp. And I mean, even Renee and I were talking, and we'll end on this. And the original, of course, film is great, but there's moments where, like, I get Yvonne Elliman gives a fabulous performance, Ted Neely, etc. But it's so campy. And so there's like, it's almost like, humorous, and there's like 70s camp. I've always said that. Always argued that God spells more deeper than the original film of Jesus Christ Superstar, because they camp it up, and there's glitter and sequins and all of that, and the way that it's filmed. But with your version, it's a tough watch. It's a tough watch because it's dark, and you take it to very dark places that makes you, and like you even said, I'm guilty of loving Jesus, the song Superstar, and rocking out to it. But you're like, wait a minute, they're torturing this man, and the paparazzi are hounding him.
Yeah, but me too. That's the whole point. The whole point is that we're all guilty of enjoying these things. And I've watched that Beirut explosion and gone, wow, God, look at that. Because what again? Bloody hell! Can you imagine being, and just absolving myself of the reality of what actually happened, how it happened, who's responsible? Has anyone been brought to justice for it? Has any, because something that should never have happened. I could name a million political things that we almost accept no responsibility for, and no one's ever brought to justice. On both in Britain, in America, in Australia, in Russia, China, Japan, it's all over the world, because we often just look at stuff that is terrible and enjoy it and have it and treat it as entertainment, and then just move on to the next one. That's
why I view and look at your version of Jesus Christ Superstar, your production, the same way that I look at, like, there was a UK musical a few years ago called Anna Nicole, based on Anna Nicole Smith.
Yeah,
and it was an opera, and their composers were like, how dare you put Anna Nicole Smith on stage? And they were like, it doesn't matter if it's Jesus, it doesn't matter if it's Buddha, it doesn't matter if it's Anna Nicole Smith. It's the same story of what we do to each other. And we tear these people down, we big them up, we tear them down, and we watch and record everything, their demise. And then when they die, we sort of sanctify them and be like, oh, wasn't that terrible? Yeah. But in the ending of the Anna Nicole musical, they all zip her up in a body bag while they're singing. And
Mm.
it's like, we did this. And it's same thing with like Jesus Christ, your version of Jesus Christ Superstar. It's like, it doesn't matter. It could easily be called Anna Nicole Superstar or Buddha Superstar.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the same warning and the
Or
same story.
Kardashian superstar, or
Oh God.
any of them. But like, if anything happens to the, like OJ, look at OJ Simpson, for example. Like OJ was very popular, and then all of a sudden he's in the car and doing his thing, and it becomes like the most viewed thing. Everyone tunes in, go, oh great, there's a car chase. Oh, what's happening? It becomes entertainment, and we are at times as a humanity understandable, but also inexcusable our behavior at times. And I say ours, I'm not absolving myself from any of this, but the point is that was what Gail, I believe, her production was trying to do, and what we were trying to do as actors. And yes, critics thought that was pompous and we're full of shit and just sing the songs and shut up, put on a silver sequin jockstrap and dance around a bit, whatever. Good. I'm glad there is as much space on the planet for productions like that as there are for productions like this and whatever. And I want space for all of them. I don't ever want there to be a taboo of what you can and can't do with anything artistic. But as long as no one's hurt and everyone's consenting, But like art and it's never right or wrong. It's just a version of something. But what Gail was trying to do was she was trying to make a comment, trying to make us think. She was trying to make us think, heaven forbid, that you go to the theatre to think, to be, especially not to see a musical and actually come out of thinking something. No, because as you said before, the West End is not brave anymore. Broadway, maybe, I don't know, I'm not there, but maybe isn't brave anymore. You can't get a producer to I've been a writer. I've had 5 record deals as a songwriter, and I've written 2 musicals, and I had a producer wanting to do one of my musicals that I wrote, but it was thought of as being too controversial. And then they asked me to write. It was too controversial because it had lines of the Quran in it, and it had lines of the Christian Bible in it. It compared them, and it was trying to say, look, we're all one group of people, But he loved the music. He wanted me to take the story away and soften, smooth the story out, and just have the songs, because the songs are brilliant. The music's fantastic, so uplifting. And I said, no, I'll write something else. This isn't right. I'll just start again and write something else, something that's more of a classic thing. And then you can't get it seen because it's not controversial, and then it's not a star vehicle, and it's not the music of somebody who died a few years ago. It's not the Four Seasons, or it's not Madonna, or it's not Take That, or it's not a pop band putting their music together to make a show. The West End's lost its way. It's like in the same regards as that popular music has lost its way. Years ago, you're like artists like Springsteen or whoever had record deals, and Bob Dylan, they had record deals for sometimes years before anything came out, because they were developing their style. There's no development deals anymore. There's no one trying to create artists. It's a case of it's almost chat GPT writing songs and sticking those out, and that's all right. People like them. It's that, and it is all right. And there's a marketplace for that. And I don't say there isn't, but there is also humanity. Human beings have a lot of beauty and pain and insight and searching and tragedy inside of them that is it's beautiful. The search for salvation, and from being someone that you didn't want, were unhappy that you were, to try and find that somebody that you want to become, and then to write about it, to share your journey with someone, whatever musical it may be, or whether it be a play. Something beautiful about that when it comes from a human being who's really trying to do something artistic and rip that shirt off and bare themselves to the world and try and do something, create something. It's beautiful. There's nowhere to do it. Where do you do that? There's nowhere to do it. There really is almost nowhere to do it. I mean, there may be 1 or 2 places that I haven't come across, but it's not like no one is looking for a great piece of theatre. No one's looking for a writer to develop. No one's looking for They're just not. They're just not, and that's just the truth. And it's a sad. It's sad. And I'm sure, like everything, Trevor Nunn. I was very fortunate to work with Trevor Nunn once, and he talked about this pendulum effect. You know, he said, "This is
Yes.
perfection." You know what I mean? This is utter crap, and this is, you know, too little. This is too much, and this is what you're aiming for. But the truth is, all you can hope for is to decrease that swing from utter shit to you know, too much. You know, you're overacting to not acting enough. You know, is to decrease the arc of that, to try and get yourself there. And that's just developing our craft. And if I apply that to where theatre goes and where music goes, I mean, I do believe theatre has swung here at the
Yes.
moment. You know what I mean? And it started with jukebox musicals, which have always
Oh,
been around. But Jersey Boys is an amazing piece of theatre, and there are some brilliant musicals that come under the banner of jukebox musicals. But every musical doesn't have to be a jukebox musical. Every musical doesn't have to be, you know, so there can be something that's not like something else. There can be something original that comes along, but people are afraid of it because it's too much money.
yes. And also, people don't want to think right now. People like cheap, tawdry, easy entertainment that doesn't have them think. And I'll leave it at this. The best musical I've seen recently that's brand new on stage is the Michael Jackson musical. Because the way that they do it,
Which one? Which one?
MJ,
Oh, MJ. Okay. All right.
MJ. There are moments that it's sort of like Jesus Christ Superstar, where he sings like, you know, just because you see it on the read it in the magazine or see it on the TV screen, don't make it factual. And there's moments where you see that I looked around the audience and they had plastered, very much like Jesus Christ Superstar. They had plastered tabloid lines that they really said about him. And I mean, I'm a big Michael Jackson fan, but I saw people in the audience. I saw people in the audience when he was singing, when they actually plastered those tabloid lines. I looked around and I actually saw people being like, shit, we're the ones that contributed to this man going off the deep end. We're the ones
and went
that
out and bought the
contributed.
newspapers and went, oh, let's turn that up quick. I didn't hear what they said about Michael Jackson. Oh, turn that up. Listen, oh, did you hear that? And then spread it around. That's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. And I'm a big Michael Jackson fan too. And I don't believe the shit about him, not for a second. I just don't. You know, I don't accept it at all.
No. Renee, is there anything you'd like to ask Glenn or say to him or give him his flowers before we end?
I was just doing that the whole time. It was a huge inspiration, and you brought Jesus from heaven, from the shining, smiling, what have you, to earth with us. It was gritty, it was messed up, and it gave me a different perspective on Jesus himself. And that's why I always said, like, if I could meet one person from history, I would love to just sit down and talk with Jesus and hear about that wild shit. You know what I mean? I want to know what really happened, because he was probably the coolest guy to hang out with the greatest takes. You know what I mean? And you brought him down to earth, at least for me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, to look at it that way. Be like, wait a minute, he struggled too. Like, he doesn't go through this knowing, you know, everything that's going to happen. It was horrible. He's going through a spiritual awakening, I guess, if you want to attribute it to things going on now. And even I went through some spiritual stuff, and you put things into perspective, and you're like, I've been doing this. It's for so long. I've been doing everything I'm supposed to do, and yet I'm still suffering. Why? And it really brings it home. So thank you so much, because it was, I keep saying it, but it was a huge theatrical inspiration and even a bit of a spiritual one, just by bringing it to earth.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. I mean, it was a very spiritual journey for me, in the sense that, you know, it was a very spiritual journey for me. I have to say, you know, as an atheist, I totally believe in the power of human spirituality. You know, and just the type of person that Jesus must have been to inspire what he has inspired. There's no, whether you're Christian or not, Christianity is a huge thing. You know, he would have to have been passionate. He would have to have been funny. He'd have to have been flirty. He would have to have been very, very, very powerful, serious at times. You would have to have been all the bouncing aspects of humanity, you know, like a Powerball bouncing around. It would have to have had every, you know, billion different sides to his personality in order to inspire people, because people don't follow morons. Well, that's not true, is it? A lot of morons sometimes. But let's face it. But there's certainly those morons tend to fade away. They're certainly not 2,000 years later. There's people still talking about them. I think I do think he inspired people to a degree that we're still talking about him and still talking about what happened to him and the people who loved him and the people the people he shared his time with. They become mystical folklore characters, whether they were real or not. I don't even know because there's so much stuff about the Dead Sea Scrolls and you never even know. I don't even know. I don't believe anything. I don't believe anything. I don't know anything. I don't believe anything. I don't trust governments. I don't trust big business. I don't trust corporations. I don't trust any of them. Like, they're all after your money, and that's all they care about. They don't give a crap about anything else. So I don't know what's true and what isn't true, except that Jesus Christ Superstar is the story of the way human beings treat human beings, and the human being in the center of that would have to have been a beautiful person to inspire what he's inspired. And look where we took him, and look where we took Michael Jackson, and look where we took you can name a massive list of people who suffered and still suffer just because they were
different.
And raised to a level where everybody knew they were. They're raised to a level everybody wants to know what color underwear you're wearing. What did you eat for breakfast? Where did you go last night? Who did you sleep with? Who's her girlfriend? Who's his boyfriend? Who's his girlfriend? Who's all this nonsense that we seem to think we have the right to know about, which is I guess is the whole point of the book Spare. Prince Harry. Is it Harry? Yeah, Prince Harry's. I don't even know. I'm so not a royalist, but it's very interesting the struggles that we have with each other, and that's what Superstar is about. I think it's. I don't think I was ever playing Jesus. I don't think I was ever playing the Son of God. If you know what I mean.
Well, I'll leave it at this. It's your version of Superstar that says that, and that's why your version of Superstar resonates with people, because you were playing it as a human that, like you said, like Michael Jackson, like anybody, sometimes we deify humans so much, even when they're alive, and we raise them to a point to where it's almost they cannot make a mistake, because even if they slip or fall, our worlds are wrought because we levitate people up to a particular level to where we view them as spotless and without fault. And with your portrayal of Jesus, you're like, hey, regardless of what you feel about Jesus, there's got to be moments where he's like, fuck this. I could, or like, there is temptation. With Mary, there are things in it. The way that you portray Jesus is that maybe we should stop raising people to a level to where we think that they're immune to human temptations, human feelings, human sufferings. And I think that's what your version of Jesus did, was that they're humans.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I hope that Jesus was having sex with Mary. I hope he was. I hope they were having a great time. I hope they loved each other and they were warmed and comforted by each other. And I hope she was friendly with the guys and they loved her and she loved them and they had a great time together. Why? I don't care about the minutiae of, I don't think that, and he shouldn't have done this, and that's the whole thing that pulls people down. It's the whole thing that why, if Kim Kardashian is walking somewhere and I still don't know who this Kim Kardashian is, because I don't watch TV. I haven't had a TV for 25 years, so I don't watch. I watch box sets, but I hear about Kim Kardashian all the time, and I've seen the odd photograph, but I've never seen this Kardashian program. But I've seen loads of sisters and all this. I don't know anything about it, so I could be speaking way out of turn. But I think, like, if she was to walk down the street and slip and fall on something, half of the world would be in uproar because she was wearing the wrong color pants or the wrong shoes. Half of the world would go, what did she slip on? Somebody should be fined for that. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone and the poor girl just fell over. Like, someone just help her up, see she's all right, and let her get on her way. We just focus on such minutiae and such silly things and such stupidity and such gossipy trash so much in the world. I don't understand it. So for me, I say 25 years ago, was it 2002? 2002, I to turn my TV off, and I just never put it back on. Never put it back on. I get my news from various news outlets, and I look, and I think that's total shit. That interesting. There's a bit of that I believe, and the rest of it I don't believe. And I get my news, and I watch. I watch great box sets. I ask friends for recommendations of what you've seen, and what should I watch. That's where I get. That's what I do. I don't know.
Good for you.
Well, this stuff. Yeah, I just literally turned up. It started off with give myself 6 months break from it, and I just haven't put it back on.
It's probably why you're a very zen person. You
got some good
zen.
ideas.
Yeah, but you should see me when I socialize. I'm in a conversation with like 12 people that go, "Oh, and did you see this? Did you see that?" And I'm just stood there going, I don't even know. I don't know what they're talking about. I have no idea. They're talking about the greatest new show or what happened on the news, and also wars have happened and ended that I didn't even know started. Because I'm not on the news. I didn't. There's a period of time where I was like, I've come to live in Sweden for a little while in the middle of a forest. I spent all the time in the forest. I don't watch the TV. If I turned around, I'm in the middle of a forest by a lake. So I'm just like I've been here for 6 months. And I'm not interested in all that stuff.
That's the way we're supposed to be as humans. And I think
exactly. I think it's too much of the minutia. People make it their business, and it just doesn't interest me. I have to be honest.
And I'll leave it at this. And this is a word of wisdom from the most wise woman of all time. Dolly Parton said, "It's been the end of time since the beginning of times. Yeah. Go out and live."
Yeah, that's true.
Just go out and live. Don't worry about what have you, because it's all just a narrative anyway. We're here. We're fine. We're not going anywhere. And if we do, the Earth's still going to survive, and humanity will survive.
Yeah. But if we, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to be said on that. Yeah, but absolutely. I certainly hope we survive. I certainly think
the planet will.
I'm not convinced yet that we will survive. But I have to say that I believe in the power of humanity, and I potentially we can go on to be the most beautiful race that's ever existed anywhere in the universe if there's other guys out there.
Eventually we're getting there. Once we stop killing people to solve our problems, we got this, baby.
We
just gotta get there.
Killing people to make money, make profit, sell the reparations, sell the weapons, sell their battle tested.
If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. Michael Jackson.
Yes, very nice. Very nice.
Thank you so much, Glenn. You are a superstar.
It's been a pleasure. It's been nice chatting to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's meant so much to meet you. You were a huge inspiration. So it's great to get to actually speak to you and hear your insights, which are actually really good. You have some great advice, even for acting. It's like, don't take it home. And that's right. That's a good thing.
Well, if anybody ever gives me a job again, I hope maybe we get to work together at some point then.
I would die. Are you kidding? Please, I'll come out to Australia for that.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
I'll be totally up for it. Lots of love.
Just let me know. Be in touch.
Bye-bye.